Hello, everybody. Welcome to CW Live. My name is Chris Webb, Head of Communications at the CW. Delighted to be joined for another special broadcast for our Royal Mail Group members by our Deputy General Secretary, Postal, Terry Pullinger. How are you doing, Terry?
Yeah, not bad, Chris. How are you doing, mate? You all right?
I'm really good, buddy.
Good.
Going on right across, right across the union, but obviously big stuff in the postal constituency now with this ballot going on. So I'll, once again, really chuffed that Terry's given the time to come and have a chat with us at, such an important juncture. We're a week now into the national ballot. So we're going to obviously talk about that. 2 weeks to go, and it's vital we chase down every single vote. So Terry's going to cover that. Also vital to say that, you're going to start seeing our communications look a little bit different as we start to physically separate all of the issues that are going on out there at a minute, so you understand, if it's this color, then it means this. If it's this color, it means that sort of thing. So 3 things to talk about today with you, Terry, if that's okay. First of all, though, quite a few members have been asking around the manager's strike action that's been called. Obviously, highly unusual. Been a very long time since this sort of thing's even been muted, let alone happening. We now have some dates where there's a mixture of action, short strike action, and actual strike action and withdrawal labour from the delivery office managers. We have, obviously, as you would expect, a real mixed response to that from our members in terms of some people who look back over past disputes and maybe and some of the things that have happened. But we've also got people saying I don't want to, if there's a picket line, I want advice from the union, etc. So I thought we could kick off with, you setting out exactly where you think that dispute is and any accordingly advice for our members, Terry.
Yeah, sure. First of all, I think the pressure is building nicely. It's absolutely the right pressure on this business. We need to expose this business, how it's being run, how it's been run. How it's not looking after this great public service, not looking after its employees, its greatest assets, but rather just concentrating and being concerned about shareholders, board members, senior managers, etc. So I think in respect of the Unite ballot, I think for a lot of people, and certainly, I really do struggle to remember, and I've been involved over 30 years, when the managers who are members of Unite have actually taken this step. But I can understand it, and I think it's totally significant in terms of how the employers behaving at the moment. And as I say, that's why the pressure's building, the exposure is building with the hypocrisy in this business, and also how badly it's being run. So for Royal Mail Group management, for the board, the chairman, the CEO, who will be going to an AGM pretty soon, next month, shareholder AGM, to explain themselves and how they're going to deliver their future plan, when they've lost the dressing room of the whole of the workforce, including their managers. So with the Unite ballot, what it involves delivery managers only, as I understand it, that have been balloted. They are taking some action, shorter strike action, from July the 15th to the 19th. But then they are planned, and they've given notice for actual industrial action, so withdrawing their labour, between the 20th and 22nd of July. So for our members, we need to understand, and we'll be doing our due diligence, because everyone knows the anti-trade union laws in this country, and everyone knows, whilst we're building the pressure nicely, it's crucial as a leadership that we explain as much as we can, and that our members totally understand the situations and the dynamics happening around them, because we're going to touch on ballots in a minute, our own ballots. So it's crucial that we give the right advice, and we tell everybody to adhere to that advice. So obviously the Unite dispute is not our dispute, that is Unite's dispute. Because it's delivery office managers, there could well be many of those managers that will be on strike might be the only manager in a delivery office. So the prospect of a picket line there is probably less, but there will be places where I would think there will absolutely be picket lines that Unite are putting up. And our members, we need to explain to our members fully what that situation means. So as that, we understand it, but we're getting this legally checked. and we will be issuing advice, Chris, as a union, and certainly you will help assist us with that and getting as much comms out there as possible. Sometimes people won't cross a picket line for health and safety reasons. And certainly if there's an unmanaged workplace, people are going to have to be aware of, are our members being looked after? Will health and safety be adhered to, etc.? We might have to take that into account. Also, from a conscience perspective, someone may not cross a picket line. But what I have to say, and what our members have to understand, there is no way that they should not cross a picket line and say they're not crossing it because they're supporting the industrial action. It is not our dispute, and we mustn't be in that place. And as I say, we'll be putting out the strongest advice on that. I think regarding their ballot, the other interesting point was people would have seen the media yesterday, Chris. Sharon Graham, who's the sort of new General Secretary of Unite, and they got a number of battles going on and strikes going on, and have won a significant number as well, getting right pay rises for people. But quite frankly, they've had enough with Royal Mail Group's executive action, what they class as hire and fire situation that's been created, the P&O style approach, which we're now getting some of well. So they're sick to the teeth with that. They're sick of the company moaning that it's not got no money. And even more importantly, I think, as well as things become clear, they're extremely concerned, Unite, that the proposals that Royal Mail Group are putting forward, both to managers, demands that they look like they're going to shaping up to put in by executive action, and none of them are in the interest of the public that we serve and have served so well over the last, for years and years, but especially the last couple of years. So very much the same sort of things are met on the same themes as us, but significant, I think, for external opinion formers that the company has managed to totally look at managerial changes and not been able to take the workforce with them. And of course, they're not going to be able to do that with us. But need to be careful. We need to get advice out there. Fair play to Unite and the managers for standing up to the way they're being treated. That is their dispute, like any other fellow worker. But it is not our dispute. And we mustn't be taking any form of action or doing anything, or any of our members which suggests, or our members or our branches are saying we're doing it because we're supporting that dispute. We're not in a position to take industrial action of any kind regarding that dispute. But as I say, there could well be picket line issues, and we'll be issuing the appropriate advice.
Thank you, Terry. I'm sure everyone will welcome that, and we'll get that advice out as far as we possibly can as soon as we've got it. Switching to our dispute, obviously the ongoing one, we're a week now, as I said at the start of the show, we're a week now into the ballot. The feedback from the members and the reps from across the country is tremendous. As always, every time we would sit here and say, that's brilliant, but can we do a little bit more? Can we keep going? We've got 2 full weeks now until the result. Just wondered really your take on how you think things are going, and what more we can do just to get those votes out and make sure we deliver the biggest possible return, including obviously people now are coming back from holidays and stuff like that, and just drilling out those extra percentages to deliver the biggest yes vote the union ever has.
Well, firstly, Chris, a massive thank you to yourself and the comms department. And then that thank you absolutely to everybody else who's participating in that. Certainly over the last few years, we have learned, that effectively you've got to, what the union has literally got to get into every single workplace. So all the senior people in the union, all the senior officers, etc., that they can be seen, they can be heard by the membership on the shop floor, just as if we visited every site. And I think we've when I think we've perfected that, you and the comms department are coming up with other ideas as well to make sure we get to people, make sure they fully understand what the dispute about, which will be a key thing in terms of any legal challenge. But and I would say management are complicating that by a lot of the material they're putting out. 1 minute they're saying the pay talks have finished, next minute they're saying there's pay if you do this, that and the other. So they're trying to confuse people. But to be crystal clear, our ballot that's out there at the moment is purely on pay, about what our members deserve, a no strings pay award. a request that was made in February, don't forget, to try and get in front of this cost of living crisis and try to appeal to a company that their greatest asset needed some protection and needed it early doors and all. And they've not done that. And I think that has managed, that has resulted in them totally losing, as I said, the dressing room, losing all of our members in Royal Mail Group. Put aside what's going on with the managers, all of our members, I think, whatever your position is, I think through the pandemic, people, what the pandemic exposed, and I've said this before, it's not about, self-pity. When we worked and we did what it exposed, because our members always do that and always battle through adversity, but it was a unique time. And I think what it's exposed is the worth of ordinary working people. So postal workers, shop workers, train workers, whatever. The whole country was standing in applause for ordinary working people and realised how important they are to society. So this is why people, your worth. Our members now know what they're worth. This isn't an unrealistic demand, and I think they know what they deserve. And you're not going to get that unless we stand up. You're not going to get that with the way the employers behaving at the moment, who seemingly just couldn't give a monkeys about either this great public service or the people who work in it. They're only interested at the moment in shareholders and themselves. And to change that, you've got to protest in the biggest way possible. So thanks to everybody. Everything's excellent, Chris. And we keep coming up, and you do keep coming up with new initiatives to engage people. And that's the important thing. This is democracy, remember. This is democracy, and people have died in the interest of having a democratic vote. So I urge everyone to vote, whether you think what's being offered to you or the way you're being treated is acceptable and you vote no. I'd encourage everyone to vote, and of course the trade union, we would encourage people to stand up and spend your life on your knees. This needs to be protested, you know it, get there and vote yes. People returning from annual leave, other members, give them a poll, say to them, listen, guys, don't forget the ballot. I know you've been away and it's been great and everything else, but this is so important that we send the biggest and strongest message possible, not just to our employer, but to shareholders, to the government, to opinion formers. They've got to know how strongly we feel, and they've also got to understand how the management of Royal Mail Group and the board have totally lost perspective with their workforce, and they've lost the support of their workforce. Not only is it a vote for a better pay deal, it's a massive vote of no confidence in the people running this company. And that's what we need. And we need it to be massive. So don't leave off. Right up until the day it closes. It closes on the 19th, of course. So we've still got time. Ask people every day, have you returned it? Have you voted? Because it is so important that people use their vote on this issue. And in our opinion, we would encourage you to vote yes.
Thanks, Terry. Fantastic. Just one more question on the ballot, sorry, and that's that point where we talk about often about confidence. So it's one of the things that Royal Mail are doing is almost setting the scene for sort of the darkest of darkest days at their AGM, and sort of saying, oh well, we're going to tell you the world's end. Conveniently, the world will end after they've all got massive payouts, and after the shareholders have got massive payout, the world ends for the posties and the parcel force workers and cleaners and all everyone else across Royal Mail Group. It didn't end for them. But from a confidence perspective, how important it is that whatever noise is out there, we just keep our eye on the prize. We just do exactly what you've said and deliver the biggest possible vote.
Oh, Chris, listen, massively, because you can't listen to that nonsense. Oh, and I'll tell you now, the CEO and the chairman will lift their head out of the trough sufficiently enough time to go to the AGM and definitely tell everyone, it goes so bad. The last few months have been awful. Profits are through the floor. All predictable stuff because of where the economy is and all this sort of stuff, and the threat of a shareholder takeover and everything to try and scare the life out of people. Well, just cast it aside. Listen, if it's that bad and they've known about it and they've done nothing about it, then it's gross mismanagement and they should all go. Equally, if they knew it was this bad and the cupboard's bare, that's because they've emptied it. They've emptied that cupboard by giving it all to shareholders and giving it to themselves. That's what I'm saying. They've had their head in the trough. They've got no credibility. With anything they come out and say, they've got no credibility. If we needed to make adjustments to changes, we needed to do revisions, productivity. We've been trying to speak to them, the trade union, since January. And that's evidenced. We even had a policy forum to drive forward the pathway to change agreement and sent them the results of that policy forum and our policy so they could see what we could work with, what we couldn't work with. They've done nothing on that. We wrote to them in February on pay, this issue that we're balloting on pay. And I repeat that because we saw the cost of living crisis. We needed a quick pay rise for our members to reward them for what they've done, which they absolutely deserved. Because don't forget what the results were then, when it was over 700 and whatever £1 million operating profit from a position just over a year of them predicting a £500-600 million loss. The money was there for our people, to reward our people. Get a proper pay deal in place, and then we could have carried on taking forward our pathway to change agreement. It's them who chose not to. They disengaged really effectively from January to April. And now suddenly they're whining that all this has happened, or they will be. Trust me, they're going to go to the AGM, as you just said, and paint the worst case scenario and threats of who's going to take us over. Let me say this to you on that, a shareholder, aggressive shareholder taker. That could happen at any time in our history. That could happen. And if it happens, it happens. Okay, whoever comes in has still got to deal with this trade union. Even more reason to send the biggest message possible, the strength of this trade union, and the fact that we won't be bullied, we won't be threatened, and we don't bow down to these idle threats that they want to put over. What they're probably doing is trying to protect their own jobs because they've grossly mismanaged this situation. And that means they could pay the price with their job. That's probably what they're trying to do. But don't get yourself in a state over that, over the threat of that. You can't. Whatever the future is, whatever the challenges is, this union has always been up for dealing with those challenges. But we don't deal with them on the basis that our members get less and less and the people at the top get more and more. We don't do that. And we don't deal with it on the basis that it wrecks this great public service. So, they know that. We've got agreements with these people, agreements where we've both signed these agreements. They should be honouring. They're not people of honour. They deliberately create situations to try and free themselves from the agreements they've made with us is what they're trying to do. So don't listen to their tales of woes. And on this issue of pay alone, you could absolutely and should have had a pay rise by April. They've held out. They've imposed 2% as if they really think that's going to help you in this cost of living crisis when they know it won't. But what they've done is they've given themselves pay rises at the top. They've given themselves massive bonuses. They've given massive dividends to shareholders. It's only you, the workers, that ain't had what you deserve. And you have to stand up and fight for that. That's how it is. We don't get what we deserve, Chris. We get what we negotiate, but we have to negotiate from a position of strength. We ignore all of that nonsense. And in advance, I ignore all the rubbish that they're going to come out with at the AGM just to try and justify what they've done and how they have and try and disguise the fact that they haven't been proven to be totally inept in running this company, both the board and the CEO, and they should go. So in terms of being frightened off of this ballot on pay, you shouldn't be. You deserve it. The money was there. Demand it. Stand up for yourself and demand what you deserve, because this union is for you. And so if you don't back us, then of course we ain't going to get we're not going to get for you what you deserve. But importantly, you know it yourself that you've been treated unacceptable on pay, and we need a massive, massive yes vote. So yeah, don't be frightened off, we're going to wreck the business, all going to go like Royal Mail. The great Royal Mail is suddenly going to disappear off the face of the earth. Absolute nonsense. Let's see what the government thinks about that. We're not going to have the universal service. Really? We're not, after coming out of a pandemic. Don't be frightened by these people. Don't be frightened by anything. Stand up, stand proud. As long as you stand together in numbers, we can protect ourselves, and we will. And it will be them that go before us. We've been here all our lives. They haven't. They've just been here just a small moment in time. We had them before, and we'll have them again in the future, whoever owns this company. That is out of our control. Don't worry about any of that. You just vote yes, and we'll get you what you deserve in respect of pay.
Spot on, fantastic, Terry, and a nice way to slice up the interview, and just to reaffirm to everyone that this is a totally separate subject. So Terry's just spoken there about the pay ballot. We're now going to move on and talk about the distinctly separate issue of change. When you were on with us last, you were saying that we would have to potentially consider a second ballot to deal with some of this stuff. You were in negotiations with the company at that point, where and a set of parameters have been agreed for that. I wondered if you could give the members an update on where we are on the issues of change, Royal Mail's proposals, executive action, which we've started to see, and what's going to be our reaction to that.
Yeah, okay. I'll try, Chris. Just to draw a line under the pay thing, to be absolutely crystal clear to people. Our ballot on pay is purely about pay, and our position is based on the performance of the company over the period of time that we look back to work your pay claim, to get what you deserve, and also position you in the best way to try and defend yourself really against this cost of living crisis, which is real and which is happening as we speak. It's hurting people now, and that's what we're fighting for in terms of pay. So it's based on the performance of the business, it's based on what you've done, it's based on what you deserve. That's pay. Draw a line. That one's done. Then, of course, we move on to the issue of management's change demands, which they have gone to great lengths to publish to everybody. And that's why I say don't be confused by that. On pay, you're purely voting to take industrial action to get a better pay deal. That's on that one. But secondly, as we've explained before, we've been trying to deal with their change proposals. And once again, we've been trying to deal with it in good faith, in line with our procedures. So our position has been, if we're going to have a sit down and a negotiation on that, then it should be in line with our pathway to change agreement and all the associated agreements. And I'll remind people, when we got the pathway to change agreement, we got a joint statement in advance of that, which myself and Dave Ward, the General Secretary, signed, which was also signed by Thompson and the Chairman, so the CEO and the Chairman. And it was that joint statement that we took forward with the pathway to change agreement. And there was commitments in that joint statement. And as I say, the agreement built on that and took that forward. And that is the commitment to all our agreements and all of our legally binding protections. Now, management's proposals cut across all of that, all of those protections and all of the things we hold dear. They are exactly the same serious issues that we were dealing with at the time we got the statement and we got the pathway to change agreement. So that is about setting up a parcel company inside Royal Mail, if you like, but via their new hubs to just do parcels. It is about making the cheapest possible pipeline and making everything later, to the point in their proposals that they're saying delivery duty start times would be 2 or 3 hours later in the day for everyone. So it is not supporting the USO. It is not promoting the use of letters. It is not maintaining arrival times, out on duty times, etc., which is in our agreement. It's cutting across all of those commitments. They've gone back to their proposals on new technology. They want to use new technology in a way that tracks you, that determines what you work, what hours you work. It's the same threat of modern day slavery that we saw off in that agreement when on the section on new technology. We protected ourselves from that. Clock in and out, swipe in and out, etc., wasn't an issue for us. It's what they want to do if they take that further. That's back on the table. Everything they said is back on the table. The attack on policies, the attack on sick pay, etc. They're all on the table, and they're all change demands that cut across that agreement. So we still, in good faith and in confidence in our negotiating position and the backing of our membership, we agreed to go into talks on that. As we entered the first lot of talks on that, that's when we got the first notice of executive action on pay, so which we haven't seen for years and years in this industry. So this is the old P&O thing, where they're starting. They've clearly picked up on the vibe because the government did nothing about P&O. They've clearly picked up that they can talk to the union and then put it in by executive action, which is what they've done on pay, which suggested to us that that's what they would do on change. So we demanded, these are high-level, serious talks. When you have a dispute resolution process, that's a high bar in our agreements of what we should do, where you have 4 weeks of talks. So we said, you've now taken executive action. So even though we will still have to have talks on them other things, we want some principles up front. And they agreed some principles. And the principles were there would be no further executive action on any of the change proposals or anything else. So we go into the following week where we're in an hotel and done the reports, Chris, from these meetings. Before the meeting starts, they hand us a letter and they're saying they are now taking executive action on setting up effectively a parcel company from 350 of our largest delivery offices, with work going in from them hubs. This is work that will be sucked out of mail centres and be sucked out of delivery offices at a time when they said, don't worry about that because there'll be more growth, but that growth ain't there. So it's going to affect productivity, which they're also after. It's going to affect jobs. They're saying there'll be no job losses. It's just nonsense. Of course there'll be job losses. There would have to be job losses. There's no doubt about it. If they push the whole pipeline back 2 or 3 hours, you won't need so many people. They'll be making the argument for a 3-day USO or less or no USO. We've sat in a room with their operations director who has said we can't afford to deliver to Cornwall and Wales and Scotland, and we can't do it like our competitors don't do it. Well, that's the public service. That is the universal service. So it tells you these are new people that have come in, that have clearly brought in a new mentality, which has taken us right back to where we were with Rico back. So twice we've set up talks with principles, with positions of honour that give both parties confidence that they're genuine talks. Certainly from our point of view, we committed we won't take any industrial action during that period, etc., etc. And twice they've undermined it, deliberately undermined it. And I'll tell you now, I know who undermined it. I know who undermined the second lot of talks and said you must give them that letter on the first day, and that is the chairman and the CEO. I know it. I know that. So don't take no notice. Oh, I don't know what's going on, and whoever they talk to. I know it's them, and they've twice. So now they've taken executive action twice nationally, and in that regard of executive action, they've also, let me say, they've also taken executive action in the Northwest Hub, and our members there and our reps there have been absolutely brilliant, been deliberately, and we believe that was deliberately picked to make a move on moving work out of there, leaving a surplus situation, which previously it's agreed that the people with their surplus would be dealt with in line with our agreements. I've deliberately done that to try and pick or provoke unofficial action. We've had the same situation in Streatham in southwest London, because the CEO has got his target on southwest London without a doubt. And there'll be other places. So you can see their pattern. They're going to the places where they think they would get a reaction because they want to try and drive things unofficial. And all full credit to our people that are standing up to that intimidation and also trying to protect our national position. This is the behaviour of these so-called people, and the chairman and the CEO, because we're in the room with managers who didn't even know that was being done, didn't even know they were going to give us that letter on the first day of the talks. So once again, we've said we're available for talks, but we've got to know that they're genuine. We can't be in that room. You pick and choose what you want to listen to from us, tie up your proposals, and just go and take executive action. So until they lift that executive action, well, we've said they've got to find a new way of giving us confidence so we can go into those talks. So in respect of all the change proposals, we will be now organising our second ballot on change. Now, I think everyone now through our comms, Chris, has understood there could be a second ballot. It is nothing to do with a pay ballot. To be crystal clear, that's about pay. There will be a separate ballot on change. And we will even go to the lengths, and Chris is working on this, you might want to elaborate, Chris, but we will even go to the lengths of producing any information on this second ballot in a significantly different colour for Chris to decide to ensure that everybody knows on that second ballot, it's not the pay issue, it's all about their change demands. And we must stand up to them. And we must stand up to this aggressive executive action that they're now taking. So anyone locally, this is my advice to any of our reps locally, if you're suddenly confronted with proposals to change anything where there's been executive action elsewhere, not only immediately take advice from your union, your branch secretary, from your divisional reps, area reps, whatever, but equally you must insist that anything is dealt with via the IR framework. And so we stick to those principles. And very soon, hopefully, they may think they're having some sport for a few weeks, but in a few weeks' time, we will be sitting there, hopefully, with a massive yes vote in opposition to these change proposals that will, without doubt, in my mind, they will wreck this great public service, and they will wreck your lives. And it's all being done in the interests of profit and feeding shareholders and excessive wages and bonuses to senior people in the company. It's got nothing to do with protecting a great public service, protecting the universal service, or protecting you or giving you your just desserts for the excellent job you do. So yes, we'll be running a second ballot. More details on that, Chris, will come out in the course of the next sort of couple of weeks. But it will be distinctive, and we will explain that before it even goes out. Chris, I'm sure we can do a session where we explain that and the colouring of it and everything else. So anyone you speak to, and people who don't watch these videos or whatever, I urge everyone, you are all union leaders out there, not just our reps, but you, our members. And you speak to the people you work with and make sure they totally understand the pay ballot out there at the moment is totally separate and is on pay. And when we enter a second ballot on these change demands, that's what that will be about. And just keep reiterating that with everybody so there's no question. Perhaps we'll do posters, Chris, or whatever that can be up in every office so there's no question our members will understand. Now, they're hoping, they'll be hoping that legally, from a legal perspective or legal challenge, our members don't understand. Well, they will totally underestimate the intelligence of our people. We don't. We will make it crystal clear. It will be obvious to any external observer as well as our members, but you can help us with that. Let's not have a chink anywhere in our armour where this underhanded, deceitful management will try to exploit it purely because they want to ignore the truth that we are forcing home with our disputes and the massive yes votes we're going to deliver.
Thanks, Terry. That's fantastic. So we've covered loads there. And for anyone who's watched the whole video, thank you. We're also going to split this one into three. So obviously, Terry's covered the issue of the manager's dispute, our own pay dispute, and how vital it is for you to get the vote out. And also latterly there talking about the change issues and what the union's going to do about it, because that's always the critical question. Terry, I wondered if you just for a moment had any final messages to get across to the members, mate.
Keep going, grow in confidence. Chris, you touched on confidence. Stand proud here. Stand proud. This as previously, as I said, the same proposals we faced before. That was the fight of our lives. We're in the fight of our lives now. We cannot afford to let these things come in. Once they come in, there's no going back. You know what I mean? And there's no coming back for our members or for this great public service. You should be proud of what you're defending. You should be absolutely proud in what you've done and what you continue to do for many, many years. It is totally unjust that you're not being rewarded properly, or being made to feel that you are exactly, the greatest asset of this company, which you are, and you're the greatest asset to the people. And the people of the United Kingdom know that and all. And I think more and more people are saying, I don't blame them. I don't blame them for starting up. When they see the figures and the money that's going to shareholders and going to the people at the top, those with their head in the trough, when they see all that, I think ordinary, decent people in this country make it right that we're standing up for ourselves. And just be emboldened by that every day, Chris. Be proud of it. Get your chest out there. Talk to the public. Tell them what's going on. Tell them what these management are like. Because if we don't defend it, then customers won't be seeing you in the way they see you now. Won't be able to rely on the service that you give them now, because it won't exist no more. These people will wreck it. So be very proud of what you do, and also defending this great public service and yourself. There's nothing better than standing up for yourself. No one should spend their lives on their knees. You shouldn't. We live in a democracy. You're entitled to your view. What we're doing is totally legal. We're entitled to ballot. We're entitled to take industrial action. You're not doing anything wrong. You're doing absolutely right. The day that we did right was the day we decided to fight. Be proud.
Thank you, Terry. Absolutely brilliant, buddy. So thank you, first of all, to you for your time. As always, giving up. I know you're a really, really busy man. Thank you also to everyone who's tuned in. As Terry said a couple of times for the session, not everyone watches the videos, so you have a job of work to make sure the conversations continue tomorrow in the offices and make sure we get the vote out in the pay ballot. So we'll be communicating more in the next coming days and weeks with you, but for now,